Well, hey guys, welcome to the studio. Today we're going to check out Nectar Elements. Right now it's free. Just click download on Izotope or from Native Instruments. You can have it for nothing. But is it worth it? Yeah, it is. We're going to check out what it does. It's AI, it processes vocals for you, and it does it really fast. And it's not bad. Couple different faders on here. This is how much of each effect it does. Let's give it a listen. Here's the vocal dry without it. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. And with it. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. All right, let's check out what that sounds like in the mix. This is without the effect. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. And let's put the effect on. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. So what you heard there was actually 6 effects at once. Okay, from left to right, pitch correction, which if you don't like pitch correction, you can shut it off. Around here in the middle, I found it's actually pretty natural sounding, and it does work. Crank it way up and it gets sort of that T-Pain effect for what it's worth. Clarity. This is subtractive EQ, and this is set up by AI. It listens to your vocal ahead of time, which I'll show you in a second, and it figures out what frequencies should be yanked out. The more you turn that up, the more pronounced that effect will be. Then there's a de-esser. You can shut that off or leave it on. If it hears harsh S's or T's in the vocals, it'll use AI and figure out where to set that up to pull the S's out. Compression, which is going to be sort of a vocal leveling thing, so nothing's too loud, nothing's too quiet. Crank that way up, it starts behaving more like a limiter. Tone is sort of from dull over to kind of bright, and again set up by the AI, and not a bad thing to mess with. It's actually kind of cool. And space is reverb. It sets up a reverb based on what it heard, and it puts it all together for you. Okay, once you've loaded this plugin and you have a dry vocal track, the first screen that you see, this is where the AI is actually going to kind of listen to what you did. Needs about 20 seconds of vocals or so. If you just have a short vocal clip, just throw it on loop so it has like 20 seconds of material to work with. It does take some time, and it goes in order. It figures out the pitch correction, then it figures out the next thing, then the next thing, all the way through the reverb. Here you have some settings. I set this one for modern on my vocal, but we could set it up for vintage, or if you're just doing voiceover work, set it for dialogue and how intense of an effect you want. Let's go with modern, moderate. I do have the vocal track soloed. I'm going to click go, and it's going to wait until it hears something. Here's what it does. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. And it's going through the analysis. The firehouse burned. We played with fire and never learned. And Christine with the hair and the eyes. About 20 seconds required. The sergeant says it was no surprise. Whew. And I just made it with about 20 seconds. And now it's set up. It decided not to use any DS. By default, pitch correction will always be left off. And it set up some clarity and tone and space and a compressor. Let's see what it decided to add. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. And here's what it added. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. Let's check out that pitch correction. I'm going to crank it all the way up so you can hear sort of maximum what it can do. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. And you can hear all the weird aliasing and chopping on it. It's really probably not a good one. But let's bring it down to 1.0. And I found this to be fairly natural. Give it a listen. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. It's apparent, but it's not obnoxious. And I could probably dial that back to like 0.7. Let's try this. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. Yeah, you can You can tell it sounds a little bit more on pitch, but it's not, it doesn't sound electronic or robotic. Not too bad. De-esser, the track didn't really need it, but if we crank this way up, you'll hear some of the S's disappear a little bit. Last night I called. And there's a good S in last there, so let me shut it off. Last night I called. Dry. Here's wet. Last night I called. Not too bad, but I'm going to shut that off. The reverb over here is actually pretty effective. Let me kill that. We'll just get a couple quick takes effect on, but without reverb. Last night I called. And with a ton. Last night I called. And it says you should run at about 1.0. Well, let me just run everything at 1.0 and A-B it. Dry. Last night I called. Affected. Last night I called. Let's try it with the track. Dry. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. With the effect. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. Okay, I recorded that vocal take on two different microphones. The one you heard before was an AKG D5, same take. The other mic was a Rode NT1. Here's the dry capture. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. And here's the setting it chose. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. Let's sneak a little bit of that modest pitch correction in, 1.0. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. Yeah, it helps a little bit with the pitch. It was not a great vocal take. Let's try it in the mix. Here's dry. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. And with the effect. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. And just for fun, here it was with the AKG on it. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. The NT1. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. But let's check them in the mix. Here's the AKG. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. And here's with the Rode NT1. Last night I called a friend of mine from long ago. He said the firehouse burned. We played with fire and never learned. I'll tell you, if I had taken the time to set up a mild pitch correction, some subtractive EQ, some compression, and then maybe some kind of like a saturator and a reverb, I could have done that in a few minutes and I would have come up with something probably pretty similar to this. But if I was in a hurry, or if I just wanted to quick get a vocal take out to a client who just finished a session and we didn't have time for me to really effect the thing up, this thing might be super handy. And I could see myself using this if I was in a pinch for time, or if I had a vocal that was a little bit kind of driving me nuts, like I just couldn't dial it in using my ear if I was fatigued. I could see just slapping this on there for a quick Band-Aid. Is it worth the price? Well, it's free. I would say if you have the time to work on your mixes and you're not under the clock, you're probably used to a workflow where you dial stuff in. But if you're working for a client and you're on a time crunch and sometimes you just need to bang something out, this thing takes 20 seconds and it sets it up in a passable way. They also have pay versions of this where you can really get under the hood and look at the EQs and look at the compressions and dial some stuff in. It's actually not a bad idea. Just use this as a starting point and make some little tweaks and adjustments as you go and let that be your final mix. It's pretty good. Well, guys, as always, I had a lot of fun putting this video together. I hope you find it helpful. And we got a lot of work to do. Let's get to it.